Good day and welcome back to GamusoTV. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have a different creative person interviewing by the name of Adam 3, otherwise known as Adam Garwood. Thank you for joining us today, Adam, and I guess Adam 3 is where we should start. What's the origin of that name?
Well, I've been asked that question many times, and I've never told the truth because it's really boring. It's really boring. The truth of it is, years ago I was invited to DJ at a big rave, and on my email that I sent to the organizer, lovely lady, I included a 3, because you know in those days in the email you had to put in a letter or something to make the name longer. And she thought I was Adam 3. So it was put on all the posters and flyers, and at the event, the staff were like, Adam 3, you're on. And I'm like, but that's not my... And I realized like my name was given to me by my parents. The industry gave me the 3. So I just said, okay, I'll keep it.
By mistake.
Yeah. So I figured if it sticks around, you know, eventually you catch on. And the mind, body, and spirit, sound, art, the mind, it's about...
Mind,
it's all about
body,
balance.
Spirit, sound,
Yeah.
art. That's 5.
In Japanese, Adam-san. So it's
Adam-san.
Yeah.
Hey,
Adam-san.
I can understand that. Yes.
That's it.
Sure, Adam-san. So your given name is Adam. Your pseudonym is Adam 3. I'm guessing that perhaps that's due to the fact that you are producing electronic mix tracks. You're also creating digital comics, and you also do some live painting. Is that the origin of the 3 in Adam 3?
Yeah. Basically, I do art, visual, and what I call DJ. It's a very misleading term, but music production and writing lyrics and emceeing and basically sound. So light and sound for me.
You actually do live DJing too, though.
Yeah.
In clubs here in Tokyo.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, DJ in clubs, and I like to produce music in the studio. And but sometimes I'm offered the opportunity to MC, and for me it's like I was brought up Christian, and in there you in the church, in the nightclub, for me it's the same thing. Like your stained glass windows, the VJ, the DJ, the organist, the MC, the priest, the Jesus Jews, Jaeger. It's like the same kind of place. So I feel it's light and sound. For me, it's the same thing. Creating a comic book is like creating a drum and bass track. It's the same thing, but it's a different place. Light is in front of you. Sound can be behind you or inside you, in your ears.
In the case of the printed medium or the comic medium. Interesting analogy there between the church and the club. We've all seen those images of fans gyrating and worshiping at the stage of the DJ.
It's crazy. But I remember back in the day when I found DJing, you went into a club to dance with each other, and the DJ was hidden behind glass walls in a studio mixing music.
Invisible.
And then over time, the focus turned to the DJ, and the lights were on him, and it was like, okay, what can this clown entertain us with? If he's throwing cakes, let's book that guy.
Well, clown or modern prophet, it almost, the visual image is really like the teller of truth and coming from the pulpit, as you say. Interesting analogy.
Enlightenment, I guess.
Or escapement.
Or connection. I mean, what do people... To compare clothing, I guess is a good place to do it. Nightclubs and churches, you know, people dress up.
Well, you're obviously a skilled fellow. Some would say talented. Talent, in my mind, is the focused application of effort upon one's given abilities to produce a desired outcome. It's a little convoluted, but again, application, effort, abilities, outcomes. Would you agree?
I understand that people have gifts, but in my success, I've always resented being called talented, because talent seems to imply that, oh, it's easy for you. It's just you just do that. It's just a gift for you. Yeah.
Which it isn't.
So you have to work at it. And so that's why I think, like, I guess the best way I'd like to come at that would be to talk about the levels of success of the rock star. So for example, the first is the person has an idea. I want to be a rock star. I'll be rich and famous rock star. And they're flying and they can see it and they can feel it and they start to play music. And then they run into an obstacle. I mean, this could be true for
ability.
Yeah, this could be true for like a scientist or a carpenter or a movie producer, whatever. You run into an obstacle. And the first one could be, oh, everyone else also has the same dream I do. And then it's competitive, which brings around the next level, the athlete, which must prove itself more dominant and powerful to eliminate the competition. And then they run into obstacles, which could be getting their ass beat time and time again, and they get knocked back down. Like, you know, a party goer, invest everything, and it all goes flop.
So that's the time.
Right. And I think
those are the hours you put into honing your
all
abilities.
that time and energy spent and run into a wall. I think the walls are there to keep people out who don't want it badly enough, and also to break down the barriers of the ego, because the ego wants recognition and to be more dominant. But when you break through that, you find that all the things that you thought you wanted shift into being thankful for what you have. And then it's the process of doing it, the love of doing it, being able to wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and paint a picture of the sunrise that you see.
And what does that do for you?
It gives you energy. It's work. It's an exchange of energy with the divine, whatever you call it.
With the large otherness in which we
well, feelings, different paintings for different emotions and reasons and intent. Sometimes I paint because I want to make money, and people buy them, and I'm flattered. Sometimes I paint
you're a married man, you're a husband and father, you need to put bread on the table.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's painting and music, and so would you consider yourself a successful professional?
I get paid full-time to do art every day.
Life is short and seldom fair, but that doesn't mean, man, we just don't care. I saw the light, I saw you there. Mandela was at your side. Bonsai, monsieur.
Well, Adam, you've been drawing since childhood, age 7, I believe, is that correct? And you started with a crayon and moved to a pencil and a pen and into the digital medium. So you've straddled both sides of technology here. What do you see as the key differences now between the digital comic, or the e-comic, and the analog or printed comic?
I grew up with Western comics, then I moved to Japan. They're Japanese manga, and they're similar in that they tell a story, but the differences are Japanese comics are quickly thrown away. So therefore, when digital took over, the concept of reading something and then discarding it was a smooth transition.
Usually,
in the West, comic books are kept as a keepsake. You know, you put it by the toilet, or a treasure in a bag, or it's
auctioned on eBay.
And over a decade ago, people said, professionals in the industry said that journalism, newspapers, magazines, and comics are going to die. And that was well over 10 years ago. And then I realized something.
Certainly.
It's never going to die, and there's a couple reasons why.
Because we like to touch things.
We like to keep things, like, for example, if someone passed away, we keep their belongings.
Certainly.
And we feel a sense of connection to something that So that's why people still buy art and still buy comic books and magazines, because they have a connection and they own it. Whereas digital, it's just something that your senses are perceiving, but you can't really
You can't
take
own
over
a
it.
monitor.
You can't put it on a shelf.
Well, you can, but it's just
Digitally, virtually, which is fantastic for those mediums. But basically, American comic books their target market is very narrow, because they do superhero comics for young boys. Where Japanese manga, they're comic books about baking bread, babysitting, basketball, tennis, fighting alien ninjas. Everyone reads comics.
I've spoken to
All
Japanese
ages.
men and women, adults, who grew up with Japanese manga,
Yeah.
just as an aside. And
They're fantastic.
I have heard Japanese adults tell me that they learned far more about life and the world from the manga that they read as children, rather than from any formal education they received.
Different culture, too, different stories. Japanese manga is very sexual.
It's also gritty. It's real life.
Mm.
It
Can be.
provides some would say it can be almost offensive, but
It is
the
to another
real
culture.
nature is-
It is to a different culture, for sure.
But it really is an informative, shaping, educational tool in this culture.
Mm.
Not like the comic in North America,
Right.
which is purely
Fight the
fantasy.
bad guys, and that's
Right.
it. Right, that's it.
And it is changing. You
Yeah.
know, the heroes of North American comics are actually becoming more diverse. Well, so you started, you DJ, you produce digital comics, but you really started with sketching, drawing at a young age, I understand. At 7 years old, you started the crayon and then the pencil and the ink and then oil, acrylics. And then you moved into the digital. It's quite a progression. How did this come about?
Well, my earliest memory with sound was, I think I was 2 years old, and I found my parents' stereo early in a Saturday morning. And I pushed all the buttons and turned it up, and the radio came on full blast. I was really impressed with what the sound system could do. So that was my intro to DJing.
And did that sound produce visuals, corresponding visuals that led you into the graphic arts?
Throughout I'm not a musician, I call myself an artist. Through my experimentation through light and sound, I found that it has access to certain doorways and dimensions. And that came later, and it's
Light and
almost
sound.
like levels, like a video game, like you get the end boss, and then there's a next level, and it just keeps opening up. There's just more light and more sound, and I feel a sense of connection to it when I use these mediums.
So there's the constant interplay of sound, light.
Expression, I think, expression. You express yourself as an artist, even as a martial artist or a painter or a singer, you're expressing your things. I mean, we have the ability to...
Do you strike a balance between light and sound? More is not always better. More light, more sound. Do you really strive?
Well, they say it's
find a
the
balance?
space of silence in between the notes that make the notes, or the space in between the bars keeps a tiger in its cage. It's crazy to talk like that.
True.
It doesn't, like Zen doesn't make sense until you really get into the Zen, and then you're right there. So it's like meditation, I think.
You're there. You're everywhere.
Mm.
There is a theme of connectedness. You see all of your avenues of expression as really being one avenue.
Yeah, I think light and sound they're different senses, But it's,
Certainly.
I mean, for me, like comic books, drum and bass, it's one and the same energy, I think.
Thank you very much for joining us today. I've learned something, and I hope you have too. And I wish you a good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you may be on the planet.
Plant that seed and watch it grow, eye to eye, toe to toe. I've seen them come, I've seen them go. I'm still on the flow at the Tokyo show. Not big as it could be or as small as I should. I'm right in that Goldilocks zone, living the life I dreamt I would. Like attracts like, but opposites attract. Life is a paradox, science fiction becomes fact. Don't hold your breath because you have to give it back. You try to sink your float and you let go to grasp. No need to fear the future or live and regret the past. Live in the present moment and never look back. But keep your mind positive, now you're on the right track. Learn from mistakes, don't remake the mishap.